right, it's time to check to see if everyone is ready for the show. All right, a few things to remember, y'all. We have a chat. Feel free to go ahead and share where you are tuning in from and send us your questions. And teachers, parents, everyone watching, get your cameras ready because later on we will have a chance to take a selfie with our special guest. All right, further ado, let the countdown begin.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello. We are so happy that you are here with us, and we thank you for tuning in to today's Flip event. I am your host, Jornay Armand from Team Flip, coming to you from my hometown, New Orleans, in the United States. With us today, we have the New York Times best-selling author and national ambassador for young people's literature, Jason Reynolds. Jason has written several award-winning books, and he is committed to telling the stories of Black youth. But Jason is with us, so let's just welcome him.
Hey,
Hey, Jason.
made it. How are you?
I'm great. How are you today?
I'm fantastic.
Fantastic. That's a perfect word. You know, Jason, it is great having you here today. And with us, guess what? We have classrooms from so many countries and states tuning in. So hello to California, New York, Seattle, DC, where Jason's at, Iowa, New Jersey, Kansas, Arizona, Canada. I see Indiana, England. We have Croatia, France. Wow, so many classrooms. And a big shout out to Mrs. Cope's class and Mr. Edwards' class. We see you and we thank you for joining us. All right, Jason, you are here to talk about you and your latest middle grade novel, Stuntboy in the Meantime. I'm not happy right here. So, yeah. So, Jason, tell us a little bit about the story and what can you really tell us about Stunt Boy?
Stunt Boy is a young man whose real name is Portico Reeves, and he lives in this apartment building in a regular neighborhood. But in this apartment building, there are all these really interesting people, and he loves it there. The only thing that's bad about it in this particular moment is that his parents are going through a tough time. And because his parents are going through a tough time, it's caused him a little bit of anxiety. And in the midst of trying to deal with that anxiety, he's decided to take on a secret identity as a superhero, he and his best friend Zola, so that he can figure out how to save people in his apartment building, but also save his parents from themselves.
Wow, Jason, just right there is a beautiful caption of what this story is all about. And I think we all can relate. I see this book is dedicated to the 10-year-old you. So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, when I was 10 years old, my parents were breaking up, and I was a kid with anxiety. And it was just a tough time, and it was a time where my imagination is the very thing that helped to sort of keep me going, because that was also the year that I discovered writing. And so both of these things were happening simultaneously. And I was going to a new school, so that was weird, like lots of strange things. But if it wasn't for my imagination and what I was able to do with writing, just like with Portico's imagination and what he's able to do as a superhero, I don't know if I would have been able to continue to find my happiness every day, which I was able to do because I had writing.
Wow, that's incredible, Jason. I'm thinking about all of us. We are all going through this thing called life. And really, the limits only happen in our mind. We're really limitless. So I love that you use your imagination to get you through those times, as you shared that you had anxiety as a kid. Well, I want to know, superheroes kind of live between two worlds, kind of like Batman and maybe Spider-Man. And Stunt Boy does too. So did you feel like you were going between two worlds as you were dealing with those things as a kid?
I did. I mean, I had to figure out, well, I love both of my parents equally, and I know they love me, but I don't. And so because of that, I don't want to let either of them down. right? And so if I got to go to my dad's house to do certain things, I feel like I was afraid that my mom might be sad because I needed to go there for a holiday. Or if I had to go to my mom's house to take care of some things, I thought my father might be a little upset because I couldn't be with him. And I think, being pulled in two directions at that age is tough. But we also know that in life that happens many, many times over and over and over again, right? And so you just have to learn how to do the best you can and trust that the people who love you will love you regardless of who you decide to sort of go with it. You're only one person, right? You do the best you can, and those who love you will protect you from feeling anxious about it,
Wow, that is beautiful, Jason. So what do you really hope kids learn when they read this book?
I hope that kids know that it's okay to be anxious first and foremost. A lot of us have anxiety or feel those strange, jittery feelings inside, and we can't always explain why we feel that way. But that's okay. It's okay to have those feelings. We're just people. We're just human beings, and human beings can sometimes be really amazing, and other times be kind of messy, and that's kind of what makes us really amazing anyway. And so that's the first thing. The second thing is that if things are happening like this in your household where your parents are breaking up, it doesn't have to always be a bad thing. And that sometimes you can create sort of beauty even in the midst of a really complicated thing, and which Portico sort of figures out slowly but surely as you continue to read, not just this book, but the series in general. And then lastly, there's nothing better on this planet than friends. Friendship is the greatest gift given to any of us, I believe. And you only need a few in order to get through the tough times.
And, you mentioned friendship, but you also mentioned that the greatest stunt of all is love in your acknowledgement. And I absolutely love that. So thank you so much for sharing what the book is all about. So we're going to switch gears just a little bit because we want to learn about you. Tell us your story. Like, how did you get to where you are today? Or how did you even decide to become an author?
When I was 10 years old and when I was talking about all the things that were happening in my life, I used to be a kid I loved rap music. I loved it so much. And I would think about those lyrics and I would read the lyrics. Back in the day, you could read lyrics, you could go and get tapes and read the lyrics. And I love to see the words on the page. And so I decided to start writing it myself, not raps per se, but just writing poems. And at 10 years old, my grandmother passed away and I wrote a poem for my mom to make her feel better. And it was the first time that I realized that language had power, right? Which meant that I had power because I had language. And so it was right. And so it's the beginning. So at 10 years old, it really felt like, oh, wait, I actually am a superhero as long as I understand how to use this superpower, which is just language, understanding words. And that was the beginning of what would be a lifelong sort of love affair with writing.
Yeah, language is definitely a superpower. And it's great to hear that music helped you to realize that words do have power and that you can be a writer or a poet as well. So I'm curious, anyone on that musical path that inspired you on this journey?
Of course, of course. I loved Queen Latifah as a kid. I loved Bob Marley as a kid. My father and mother would play Bob Marley as a child. I loved Tupac as a teenager, who was a big influence for me. Lots of people, though. I mean, like back then, rap music was so fresh and it was so new that there were just all these different styles. So it wasn't even just about one or two people. It was sort of understanding that there's a million ways to say the same thing, which means that I could do it my own way, and my own way could be valuable.
Yes. Well, Jason, I know you are so passionate as a writer. I can hear it. I can feel it. And I know you must know what it means as a writer to be up against a deadline. Do you?
Of course, of course.
Of course. Okay. Well, you need to pull on that experience today because it is about to be crunch time. So, the way this is going to work is you will have 2 minutes on the clock.
Okay.
A sentence will pop up on the screen and you will have to finish it. We're going to see how many prompts you could get through in 2 minutes. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. It's officially crunch time.
My favorite place to write is that what it says? I can't see it. My favorite place to write is right here where I'm sitting right now. Every day I write right here. The characters in my books that I can't see the questions.
Oh, so the character from your book that you admire the most is?
All the girls, every girl character I've ever written.
Oh, I like Zoe. To beat writer's block,
Write badly.
I have my best ideas when I'm.
Oh, in the shower.
It took me how many years for my first book to get published?
Uh, since birth, 21.
The best writing advice I ever have received is?
Write badly. Write it down and then make it right.
Awesome. My literacy inspirations are?
Oof, Toni Morrison, my mom, Walter Dean Myers, and those are the top ones I'd probably say.
My favorite book of all times is?
That's not a fair question. Like, I guess I'll say Salvage the Bones by Jesmyn Ward today.
True or false? I keep a diary.
True.
If you want to become an author, you should
Read.
That was so much fun, Jason, and it shows too. Teamwork makes the dream work, right? I loved all of your advice, Jason. And now a moment that I believe we've all been waiting for, selfie time. So teachers, parents, friends, everyone watching, get your cameras out. Gather in front of your screen in your classroom or at home or office, wherever it is that you are watching from. We'll give you a few seconds to get set up, and while you do, be sure to tag us at Microsoft Flip, Jason Reynolds, and our friends at Simon & Schuster. Jason, are you ready for the dance party?
Of course.
All right, show me your moves.
Well,
Cue the music. That was fun. Jason, would you count down for us?
Yes, from three. 3, 2, 1.
Well, that was like the most fun selfie time I've ever seen. We would love to see your selfies with Jason. So again, please post them on Twitter. Now, let's move on. I hope you all are back in your seats because it is time to answer some of your questions. So let's start off by taking a question from the chat. So we have Carlos. He's joining from Brazil, and he's saying that he wishes he could be as creative as you are, Jason. What advice do you have to those who think they aren't creative enough to write their own stories?
This is a good question. I mean, I think that we live in an amazing world. I mean, Carlos, you're in Brazil. You know, if you look around and really pay attention to what's happening around you, the good things and the bad things, it's all pretty inspiring. But in order for the inspiration to work, you got to be curious about everything that's happening, right? And so the only reason that my imagination works like this is because I'm so curious about the world. I want to know why everything works and how it works. I want to know what everything is about, what all the food tastes like, who's over here, who's over there. Be curious about your environment and the people and places around you and animals and everything else, and your imagination will stay sharp.
Wow, that is great advice to be curious about the people and places around you, and even inside of books too, right? The things that maybe you don't get to experience on an everyday basis that you read about and you become curious. Love that tip for Carlos and so many future writers or writers right now. Everyone's a writer, right? So we have another chat question. We have Jaylee saying, it's great how you make books about feelings. So, what has been your motivation to make books?
Oh, Jaylee, that's a good question. Feelings. Feelings is definitely the motivation. I think we should talk about our feelings more often. I think we should explore our feelings more often, especially when I think about young boys. I think sometimes as a boy growing up, I was taught to sort of try to tuck those feelings away and to be tough. But I shouldn't have to be tough if I don't want to be tough. And sometimes it's important to sort of show a boy crying or a boy afraid or a girl being tough, right? And a girl having feelings of anger, right? Which you all are allowed to have, which girls are allowed to have. And so I think it's just about showing feelings because feelings are human, and I'm interested in human beings.
Oh, that's beautiful, Jason. And if we express our feelings, what we find out sometimes is we're more alike than what we are very different, right? That place of vulnerability brings us closer together as people. So just be human. I love that. Love it. So we also asked students to submit video questions on Flip, and we chose a few to share with you today. So let's hear the first one.
Hello, bonjour. My name is Ahmed. I'm from Canada. My question is, what is a superhero for you?
What is a superhero for me? I'll tell you this. For me, a superhero is anybody who can make somebody else feel like they have a superpower. Like that's a superhero, right? Teachers, parents, a good friend, a good brother or sister, right? A good book, a good show. Like a real superhero convinces the rest of us that we have superpowers and that we could be superheroes too.
Awesome. And Ahmad, thank you so much for asking that question. So while you're in Canada or wherever you go, look around for those people who are empowering you. They are those superheroes. All right, Jason, we have another chat question. We have Chase from Conkids, Minnesota, and he's asking, how many books have you written?
So I've written 21 or 22, but I've published 19.
Wow, that's a lot of writing and a lot of publishing, lots of editing. That's incredible. This time we have a fifth grade student from Connorsville, Indiana, who wants to know how you decided to make Portico a superhero.
That's a good one. It's a good question. I think I just was trying to figure out um, I was trying to figure out what are his coping mechanisms going to be, right? He's dealing with this thing going on with his household, and he's also dealing with his mental health. And I was trying to asking myself, like, what were the things that I used to cope when I was a kid? What did my older brother use, who also dealt with a lot of stuff as a kid? What did he use to cope? And we all ran to especially my older brother, he ran to superheroes because superheroes always like Spider-Man, for instance. Spider-Man was like this normal kid, right? He was a normal sort of nerdy kid, kind of getting, just doing the best he could, fumbling and bumbling through life. And then he became this superhero. And that gave him a certain kind of power. Even if it had to be hidden, it still made him feel better about sort of what he thought were some of his blind spots and shortcomings.
Yeah, we all have an inner superhero. And we even have another question coming in from Eva. She wants to know if you have a favorite book that you've written so far. So out of those 21 that you've written, 19 that you've published, which is your most treasured one?
It's probably a tie between some of the early books like Boy in the Black Suit or As Brave as You. But the most fun has got to be Stuntboy. Stuntboy is the book. Like Stuntboy is one of these books that I write it and I'm just laughing the whole time, and it just feels more of it feels like writing a cartoon, you know. And so the most fun, definitely Stuntboy, but my favorites probably Boy in the Black Suit and As Brave as You.
Awesome. Those are all incredible books. And I have to agree with you. Stunt Boy was hilarious. We laughed throughout it all. My daughter has a favorite meme character in that book. I'm not going to give any secrets out, but we love the way that Portico and Stunt Boy, as well as his friend Zola, handles their situations. So,
Mhm.
Jason, in your book, Stunt Boy gets something called the frets, which his mom calls anxiety. And Elizabeth from New Mexico is wondering how someone can beat the frets.
Oh, well, first, I think it's important to know that it's okay to have the frets. It's okay to have the frets, right? So, like, we want to make sure that we can live with the frets and move and not let the frets stop us. But we don't have to pretend or be upset about having the frets, you know? Now, some tricks to sort of get through the frets: take deep breaths, right? Make sure you have people around you who you can tell that you're feeling a certain way, and they can kind of help to walk you through a process of calming down. Um, uh, make sure you have people to call, parents and friends and teachers, things of that nature. And also, if it gets really, really bad, don't be afraid to. And your mother and your father and your teachers and the adults in your life will help you understand that sometimes we have to just get medicine, and that's okay. It's okay to take medicine to help us sort of, because it's in the brain, right? To help us regulate certain things and to calm us down. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I take medicine. There's nothing wrong with that, and I want to make sure that all of you out there know that that's a normal thing. And sometimes it's even a part of you being a superhero.
Oh, I love that. We face our frets, and maybe our fret can become our superpower, right? And be a
Absolutely.
superpower for someone else as well. So we have some more questions. Mrs. Flattery's class from London, Ontario asks, how long does it take to write a book from the start to the end?
It depends. Every book is different. Every book is different. So, something like Ghost, for those of you who read Ghost, that book took 6 months. But I've got other books that have taken 2 or 3 years. Right now, I'm working on a book that I've been working on for 7 years. And then something like Stunt Boy might take 2 or 3 weeks, right? Well, to write it. But then when the illustration takes a long time because we got to go through the process and we have to edit. So it might take me a couple of weeks to write it, but I might edit it and change it and fix it 30 times before you get it. So it just depends.
That's so good to hear that, it may take some people maybe a week to write something, but, another piece of work might take a little longer. So when you get those writing assignments, in school or whatever, think about that time. Think about when you're most creative and when you want to write. Maybe you're best writing early in the morning. Maybe it's when that spark of inspiration comes. But I think Jason told us earlier, just get out those ideas, no matter what they're like, and then you can always make them better.
Yeah.
So we have another question. Mrs. Oliver's class at Edison Elementary is wondering, if you weren't a writer, what would you want to be?
A chef or a furniture maker. That's it. I like to eat and I like furniture. So I would probably go into that. I would cook and I would build things with my hands.
That's incredible. Still creative, right? We can
Yep.
use our creativity in so many different ways. Well, Jason, we have one more video question, this time from New York. Ready?
Hmm.
Hi Jason, my name is Milan Perez from New York. How can I help my friend believe more in herself?
How can you help your friend believe more in herself? First of all, the fact that you want your friend to believe more in herself lets me know that you're a good friend. And so you're already doing the right thing, right? I think it's really difficult sometimes to convince people to believe in themselves if they don't, because some of that has to do with like them making that decision. But what we can do is make sure that at every chance we get, we point out the things that make them great, the things that we're grateful for, the things about them that only they can do. I think the reason that sometimes we don't believe in ourselves is because sometimes we don't think we're special. But the funny thing about people is that everybody is different and everybody has a special thing to offer. So as her friend, yeah, if you're the friend, then you get to point out what those special things are and celebrate that friend as often as possible. And you'd be surprised how that changes the way people feel on an everyday basis.
What an awesome superpower we can all possess. Just being able to tell people how amazing they are when you see the gifts that they have and they could share. So thank you so much for that tip, Jason.
Yeah.
And thank you, Milan, for asking that wonderful
Oh,
question and being there for your friend.
can I shout
So,
out real quick? Cause she's from New York, and I got a special teacher I want to shout out from New York, Miss McGlynn. I know there's a teacher named Miss McGlynn in New York that I know is on here, that I know is here, and I just want to make sure I shout Miss McGlynn out. Shout out to you, Miss McGlynn. Awesome teacher.
shout out to all the incredible teachers that are here today with your scholars. We have Tanjiro Kamado asking, are you going to write a part two of Stuntboy in the meantime? And I almost have a feeling why he's asking that because I saw this to be continued too at the end of that book. So my question is similar.
Is there a part two? Yeah, it's coming out soon. Part two. It's called Stunt Boy in Between Time, and it comes out I think in a couple of months. It should be rolling out. I'm hoping. I don't know, but it's soon. Sometime next year, it's going to be out.
Well, we can't wait. We'll have to have you back. So for the
Absolutely.
part two. Jason, any final thoughts you want to share with everyone watching today?
My only final thoughts is that I love you. I think sometimes we take for granted that term and that phrase. But I love you, all of you who are watching, all of you who have read these books, the teachers who teach these books, the students who read these books. I love you very, very much. And what that means is that I'm thinking of you when I'm making these things, right? To love someone is to be thoughtful and to keep them in mind and to keep their best interest at heart, right? I want the best for you. So when I'm making something like Stunt Boy, know that you are on my mind. I am thinking of you. I want the best for you, and I'm always rooting for you. That's it.
Oh, well, we love you, Jason, and we thank you for your time and inspiring all of us to be bold and brave. And everyone has a superhero inside us, and we simply have to believe in ourselves and find that courage to support each other. So thank you so much, Jason, for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate y'all.
Yes. Well, this was amazing, but you know what? The learning and inspiration is never over. Head to this link right here to find activities for your learners to reflect on all that they have learned from Jason today. We also have flip events every week. So on November 1st, you can meet author and filmmaker Justin Baldoni. November 10th, get ready for a virtual field trip adventure. We will be joining Lauren Tarshis to talk about her new I Survive book and series. And then November 17th, we will travel to Moat Marine Lab to learn all about manatees. Go to aka.ms/flip events to find your classroom's next adventure. And before wrapping up, one more thing. We want you to be invited to explore some of the incredible live online classes offered by our friends at Take Lessons. Microsoft Take Lessons has classes on any topic from coding to STEM, arts, or creativity, and can empower your kids to learn anywhere, anytime. Well, that's it for today. I'm your host, Jornay Armand, and on behalf of Flip, Simon and Schuster, and Jason Reynolds, thank you so much for spending your time with us. We will see you next time.